Hello and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two we've read. I'm your host Scott and I'm not alone. Toby's here too. This episode we're talking about Stephen King's If It Bleeds. It's going to be a fairly spoiler heavy episode, so if that's okay with you, continue on and I'll see you on the other side.
So I am 2,600 days in, no, 2,600 push-ups in to a 3,100 push-up month.
Oh, nice. You're on target?
No, I am on target, yes.
Oh.
Well, I've done 25 today, no, 20 today, so I've got 80 more to go today.
Crikey.
Which is fine.
Sense of tens, you say?
It was originally. I'm now up to about 25, 20, 25, sometimes 30.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So
feeling the gun show?
Yeah, sun's out, guns out, all that. Although the sun's never out here, so I don't often get the guns out, and more pistols and guns, to be honest. Spud guns.
Good on you.
How are you doing? How's your fitness regime? Have you got one at the moment?
No, I've always just been really sporadic. I can sort of hit it pretty good for a couple of weeks, and then just one interruption will just pull me out. I can sort of, swimming is going to be my thing, and I love swimming, but it's just that it's a bit more upheaval than a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll do it like, twice a week for a couple of weeks, and then just stop dead for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not too bad here. Just sort of plugging in on the edge of spring.
Oh yes, yeah, we got spring here too. Apparently, like a couple of days ago, start of spring. So it's been feels like it's been a long time coming, to be honest. It's been a cold winter.
Long winter one, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Indeed.
Toby, I have a sort of a side swipe. No, that's not the right term. It's sort of a non-inductive intro.
Okay.
Basically, cool. I just saw a movie that I just want to rave about.
Okay.
I just want to tell everyone about because of our getting to why. It's called Gonjam.
Gonjam.
Gonjam? I don't know. It's like a South Korean movie.
Okay.
Gonjam, and it's called Haunted Asylum.
And where did you see this movie?
On Amazon.
Okay.
Other streaming sites are available. It was sort of recommended by a work friend. In fact, when I tell you the concept, you're going to shrug and okay, nothing new under the sun.
Don't spoiler it though.
No.
As good as you say it is.
But it's just the setup, which is just on the front, and there's almost not many spoilers to have. It's not about that, but it's like very POV. It's like from the point of view of like a YouTube streamer,
okay,
who sort of like, I'm going to spend the night in this like haunted house here. Oh, this is fake. I'm going to go here. And so it's exactly just that, nothing new under the sun, very point of view. A lot of the shots are just shots from the cameras down. They have like a double GoPro, one on their face, one forwards, and a couple of security cams. And it's just a small team that go into a haunted asylum. That's it. Arguably, absolutely nothing new, but it plays so much. It just sets a really good atmosphere.
Okay.
And so I watched
my cup of tea.
Just so I could listen to it properly. I watched it quite late. So I watched it on my iPad, which is never ideal. But because of the nature of the film, that it is sort of like done from like a streamer's point of view, it kind of lended itself. This is how people would watch it. And as a result, I could have my big headphones on and have it loud. And when I say loud, it's not a particularly like aggressive movie or action movie. It's just the tension. So what was loud was just like the Blair Witch style, snot into the mic, breathing and atmospherical sounds. But why I wanted to praise it so much is because we've talked about it before. I said, when was the last time you sort of were scared by a book or a movie? Very rare. And it's not that I was scared, but there was just a couple of scenes that shed genuine shivers down my spine.
Wicked.
Like my body just did that thing, which it hasn't. I don't think it's done that in outside of jump scares. Which, any bad or good movie can do a jump scare. Yeah. Arguably, let's not get into the nature of jump scares again, Toby. It just shed a few hard shivers down my spine, all the way from I could feel it go from my feet all the way up to my head. And so, check it out if you can, if you like that kind of thing.
Awesome.
Gonjam House, Haunted Asylum.
Nice.
Just to bring it back into books, like I was saying, like that film sent a shiver down my spine, and it's not a feeling I've had in years. I was sort of like not jealous, but like my partner just finished reading The Book Thief by Lusk. I read it when it first came out years ago, and she's just not catching up. But she just finished reading it, and she was basically brought to tears.
Wow!
Which I've sort of, you sort of hear people say it, and you don't. I never thought it was literal. But no, she genuinely shed a few tears for the sad ending of this book, which makes it. I absolutely have no memory of it. We're talking well over 10 years ago. I read it.
Yeah.
Like I want to be hit that way by a novel, because I don't think I have in a long time. I've been like, I think that the most emotional I get is like when I'm angered when something happens that's unfair to a character.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if we've reviewed it, but the last book that genuinely gave me chills was probably down at Zed Zawalski's House of Leaves.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense.
I read that alone in a flat in London when I've just moved to London, and it was terrifying.
It's certainly unsettling. I certainly remember having I had my dreams just, if I had a particularly late night session with that, which I did often, like my dreams just being interrupted by it, as it were.
Yeah, there was some good amazing stuff in there. Yeah. So hopefully in this, was it the third of the 4 novellas in Stephen King's If It Bleeds, which is his 75th published book and the 11th collection of short stories that he's written. Hopefully, If It Bleeds gave you shivers, but we'll find out a bit later, I guess.
Nice. You tell me he's looking really smug with that.
Thank you very much. I'll just give you a quick synopsis of the short story, the third one. It's based around Holly Gibney. Is that how you say it, Gibney? Did you say that? Yeah?
Gibney, yeah.
Yeah, Holly Gibney from the Mercedes trilogy, Outsiders, and then this is the 4th iteration of her character of the Finders Keepers Detective Agency. She is working on a case of a missing dog when she sees footage of a school bombing on TV. But when she tunes in again to the late night report, she realizes there's something not quite right about the correspondent who was first on the scene. Soon, she will find that she is not the only one who has suspicions about the reporter. Kind of brief overview. We'll go into a little bit more depth later on. And then we have some... Shall I go straight into the review roundup, the pros and cons? Okay, so Callista... I have read 3 of the 4 novellas from this collection, and I've enjoyed them all. But this is my favourite thus far. I love Holly as a character. I feel you, girl. She seems so fragile, but she is tough inside and capable. She's not your typical hero type character, and she gets the job done here.
Nice.
J.D. Barker with another prose. If It Bleeds gives us a welcome glimpse into the life of Holly Gibney, his detective of choice for the 21st century. Alan Pangborn 2.0 for those of us who have been reading his works for a while. The story picks up after the events of The Outsider and answers a question not only for Holly, but us readers. Was the monster in that book alone in the world? I imagine the executive in charge of The Outsider Season 2 over at HBO perked up when this one crossed his or her desk. And then we've got some cons. The Bibliophile blog, which is a really good blog. If It Bleeds was easily the weakest story for me. I did not like it at all. It's too meandering, reads like a more boring version of The Outsider, has too many plot holes. It counts for almost half of this book, and it feels like a short story that got really, really stretched out. To be fair, plenty of other reviewers liked it, but I did not. It seems like King was trying to write a sequel to The Outsider, but there wasn't enough material, so he gave up and turned it into a novella. I didn't find it creepy or interesting. The last half of it is especially boring and nonsensical, as Holly Gibney, the main character, cooks up a very poorly conceived plan to deal with the villain of the story. Also, this story is probably better if you have already read The Outsider. And then David Putnam comes in with If It Bleeds hit a sour note for me, a dud. This is the one that kept upped the book from 5-star status. It almost felt like King was writing a new novel, lost interest, waved his magic wand and called it a novella. Part of the problem, I think, is that the conflict wasn't set well enough early enough. He didn't catch my attention until the mole showed up, which was far too late into the story.
No.
And then I've got a food for thought. As a side note, I'm pretty sure Donald Trump was bashed in at least 3 of the 4 stories. Look, I'm not a supporter, but neither am I a hater. Regardless, I really wish authors would keep their politics to themselves. I see enough of that crap on social media. I don't need it in books I'm reading to escape. Take note, Stephen King, you sexy genius, you.
Interesting. Yeah. I did, because I think I didn't pick it up in the other 2, but one of your reviews was like, "This is bullshit. I'm sick of your
exactly."
Like,
that's
I didn't
why
like politics push, and this I did put a note of like, "Oh, there it is. There's the one."
Yeah.
And it I mean, it does seem like one, but I guess it's not sly or subtle. It's like, ugh, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's going to throw for me because I guess I saw the Outsider TV show. Like Holly is definitely white in the books, but she's cast black in the Outsider. So because I don't know, I just picture her as that actress now.
Right. Okay. That's
that actress took over. So there's always a bit of a weird spin when it's like she deals with Jerome, for example, which is not anything King's done wrong. That's just like something that's I've latched onto in my head. That's you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. You've not seen the Mercedes?
I've saw season 1 and about 2 episodes into season 2.
And which of the 2 iterations do you prefer?
It's odd because I'm literally seeing it's like I've seen the grown-up one as grown up as she's going to get. It's like I've seen the youthful one. I've got to say they make her more compelling in the HBO one, and I think the actress does a great job. But I do really like this one. I almost need to finish it to see her go from step to step, because this one does a really good job of, I don't know, I guess partly maybe she's playing it too strong, like she gets a bit Boris Gumpish maybe.
Yeah.
But I've got love for her still. She's really sweet to watch. I always have to remind myself that she is described as being like on the other side of like mid-30s, no?
Yeah.
But there's a point of like she's not a kid and she's lost a large chunk of her life to this, and that's probably part of why it's such a joy to see her finally break out.
Yeah. So are you kind of on board now with my exuberant nature towards this character?
This has made me look less forward to Holly than more.
Because I would agree with you here. This story doesn't do her justice. I think The Outsider and her arc within the first trilogy, Mercedes trilogy, were better. And in this one, it does. I do agree with some of the negative reviews that I just read out. You know, their stance on her and the story within this, and it just doesn't quite chime as well as I'd hoped it would do. But that hasn't lessened my love for her as a character or what's going to come in Holly. It's made me maybe a little bit more apprehensive than maybe I would have been.
I just said to our listeners, probably Outsider spoilers are going to pop up in here. Which is also a point of something we need to talk about, is that it's clearly a direct sequel. There's so much reference to The Outsider. Some are fine. You know, she's writing this letter to Ralph, is it?
Yeah,
Detective from The Outsider. And I really like that. I instantly, I guess this is sort of like, I can't help it, but I just don't think I really like Holly as a central character. I was more excited that she was all about talking about Ralph. I was like, oh, cool, we're going to get Ralph back. Which we don't. It's all like it's just like every third beginning chapter is like a letter to Ralph, like a security letter. It's basically a mini Outsider. It doesn't really belong anywhere. There's, I don't know. It was fine to read it. I have sort of no hate against it, no ill will or ill love. And I did enjoy it, but I just came out thinking nothing new. Yeah. Arguably, we've just as a lot of people said, like, this is just a mini version of it. If you haven't got time for The Outsider, just read this.
Yeah.
Can argue it's her putting it to bed. I was sort of thinking, was this like, for any Lord of the Rings fans, what's it called? The Scourge of the Shire.
Mm.
The end of Lord of the Rings, after he's destroyed the ring, after we've had the movie, like Aragorn gets anointed, there's a fucking 200-page history of a tree, what happens to that tree after all the events. Sam and Frodo head back on their own to find that the Shire has been taken over by a dark, mysterious force and they've been pushed into slave labor. And you're like, what the hell is going on? I thought this book was wrapping up. And we've got like this chapter of we have to uncover who it is. And it's more about basically Sam becoming the boss and Frodo taking over the seat. But it is like, are you kidding me? Where's this coming from?
Yeah.
And it does sort of wrap up some stuff, but it's like, oof, let's get to the end. And this kind of feels like it could have gone on the end of The Outsider as a little wrap up for Holly, but it was just too big and it was just too much of something you could easily snip out.
Yeah, so that's exactly, I think you nailed it on the head there. That's exactly for me what the problem with this story is that it is a retread of what we've already experienced. I love Holly, and I love Holly investigating new and intriguing supernatural mysteries or straight up just crime drama or just something new. I didn't want another revisit of a similar villain, just in a different guise doing different types of crime. And it does borrow heavily from an awful lot of some of his more recent novels as well. I think there's nods to, feels like there's nods to the Knot. Is it they're not the True Knot? True Knot. I'm going to say.
I think because she refers to Outsider as like a vampiric
parasite. Yes.
Parasite. Which goes all the way. Let's not get into the library policeman.
No.
There's some world connecting here potentially.
Yes.
I have the literal thing that could undo it all. I'm shivering, dude. I'm just going to put a jump on real quick.
Yep. No worries. Musical interlude from Toby's voice box. You have arrived at floor number 3.
Ooh, cheers, mate. So there's a lot of theories about is the Outsider and this, what do they refer to him as, the mole?
Mm-hmm.
Are they offshoots of Pennywise or eggs or something? But I need to kill it all and say nope, because if there's either a continuity error or he's retroactively backtracked, because he has probably said this is not it, because some people thought it was, but that would seem pretty obvious to me. That's not. This is Pennywise. He has gone wild in his retirement. Compared to, obviously he's blowing up schools and killing kids, but but I do remember from Mr. Mercedes, they talk about Stephen King's It existing as a media.
Yeah.
Like, have you read that story about the clown under the sewer? Because there's that whole thing with the mask, which sort of, I would say, destroys all theories.
Yeah, exactly that.
But,
outside of it.
You could, I guess there's that King thing where he can probably get a bit smart, alecky and clever, because I think it's in the Dark Tower, like Stephen King is a bit of a character in one of them, I believe.
Yes, connects through the wind.
Which arguably, and now we're talking on multiverse things, so suddenly we can sort of connect everything we want to if we have the excuse. I guess it's a bit of a, not lazy, but a bit of an easy way to say, it could be because it's another universe. It's like, okay, but in that case, we could say it's connected to Gone with the Wind. We can go back to the whole multitudes. If we all contain multitudes, then how deep do these multitudes go? And then if we say, something as ridiculous as, Gone with the Wind is actually connected to Pennywise the Clown, then it's, again, a bit nihilist and anything goes, so nothing matters.
I guess, Brilliant. So, do you want to, I don't know, if we need to go over a brief overview of the story, you've set it up quite nicely there. It opens with the school bombing, which was quite well realised. I thought it was well written, pretty harrowing. The way the receptionist feels the guilt for everything that's going on and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I guess we're still getting those reoccurring hints at themes from the Mr. Mercedes, the guilt people involved feel. And it does seem heartbreaking. I don't know, this is something you're going to want to cut out because I'm bringing it far too real and dark. But a couple of years ago, we went to the cinema to watch a string of all the Oscar-nominated shorts. Wow, was it dark and depressing. Turns out, like, really miserable drama gets Oscar nominated easily.
Right.
So when you watch about 2 hours of them, you just come out going, let's just go to bed. But one of them was sort of infamous because it was a dramatization of the sort of abducting and murder of the Jamie Bulger case.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty controversial because I'm not saying it showed them sympathetic, but it was the point of view of the two abductors. Right. And it didn't show anything. It just showed the abduction and it showed the interviews. But, it definitely made me sort of reread certain stuff about it because it was such a big case growing up. And there was, I didn't really take it in as a kid because I was a bit too young, but there was a woman who stopped them.
Okay.
Because the baby was crying and it was like, are you two okay? And she was just like, the kid's just sort of like, yeah, we're just taking him home. He's our little brother. But she knew something was up because she stopped them and said they seemed too young to be looking after a baby. And that guilt that lady must carry, I don't think it's remotely her fault, but she just had this inkling that she didn't.
There was a moment,
And I can't imagine how. Sorry, this is probably way too tough for the podcast.
No, you're right.
But that's sort of where we get on with. There's sort of hints of that.
It's acting on instinct,
and all of them have that. Like in some, and Miss Mercedes is like her car was stolen. As simple as that. It's nothing to do with her. She didn't leave the key, as we find out. But the guilt, she can't face up to that. She was even involved, not alone the lack of guilt or guilt. And again, in here, like I say, the receptionist is pretty well realized not of good if good men do nothing, but that you had a chance that you let slip through no fault of your own. And it's just a further, I guess, like The Outsider, like this, it's like they're trying to spread the grief, and that's like what do they say in The Outsider? Like the grief is like a dessert. Like there's not the main meal, but it's like a nice gravy or something like that.
Yeah. So I think there are some really good moments in this story. I did like Jerome coming back into it and being part of stuff. I liked the hallway showdown at the end.
Okay.
I quite enjoyed that, even though it was a bit hammy and
it felt small to me.
Really, okay.
But knowing that it's a short story, it was like, of course, it was never going to be like Gunfire, OK Corral, but it just did feel like okay. And I guess her plan was not dumb, but like, what the hell? Convoluted.
Yeah. Convoluted is a great way of putting it. I did one of my favourite moments in this was the actions that she, looking back on, are pretty stupid, but she puts herself in at harm's risk, whatever you want to, quite frequently throughout this, meeting up with the person who she's not sure of, but is pretty sure, and then flat out accusing them to their face. You're just like, what are you doing, Holly?
Doesn't she watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
That was literally Sean Bean's undoing. He had the info. He just went straight up to her and went, I know. It's like, oh, you idiot. Play your cards a bit smart, son.
And she does that. And I just think that was maybe a little bit against her character, because it's not the brightest move in there.
Are we maybe introducing the fact that this is the first time she's been on her own?
Yeah.
I mean, sort of, possibly. But I also feel like in The Outsider, she was on her own because she was just hired to do a job. No, she ended up with the team. I guess she's with the team. I guess she's hired to investigate, not get involved, and then she takes over, to be fair.
And I think, I guess it does do a good job of setting up that a lot of what she does as a detective within Finders Keepers and Jerome and the girl, I can't remember her name, are menial tasks.
The sister.
The searching for lost dogs. That sort of very sort of low-brow detective where it really doesn't involve an awful lot of brain power, so that when she does get the bit between her teeth, she probably is over-exuberant and goes full in like a bull in a china shop. But some of those moments were well-written and quite tense, I thought.
Yeah, no, I think it sets itself up just fine. Like to do a sequel and purposely make it smaller and quieter, despite the fact that arguably we're dealing with actually probably a more powerful, I guess less sinister. But he shouldn't be, but he is. I guess he's only really just the mold has only really just started transgressing into hurting people. Before, like it didn't spend most of its life witnessing, and only recently, I think they say it's starting to force the events.
Yes, yeah.
which I guess is what makes it less sinister. Like it's addiction.
Yeah, it's a bit like I guess what's that film was Nightcrawler, is it?
Oh yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal, yeah. He turns up and then starts to instigate and orchestrate.
Just slowly gets more involved in her heinous ways to the point of he's causing them. Yeah, no, it's a good spot. There's a really weird, not weird, but again, this is why it sort of drew so many parallels with The Outsider for me, was that once the action's over, there's like a sort of whole bit about how Jerome and his sister, like the story they have to come up with and the wrap up to get away from the bed. And there is sort of not necessarily a tie-in, but back at End of Watch, Hodges and Holly basically are like, okay, the world is just going to think we've gone mad and broken the law because we have to, like the spoilers for that, but the villain has sort of gone into another body of a respected doctor and they know it. Right. So it's like, okay, we're just going to have to take him out, but we're not really going to be able to explain this to anyone that's believable. So there's a good chance we'll just have to be like mental murderers to the world, if that makes sense. So I guess there's a strange sacrifice.
Yes.
But so this was my sort of weird time thing. I was reading an interview with the Russo brothers who directed big Marvel movies. And they're a huge fan of the sort of mock joke channel Cinema Sins, which do everything wrong with, in which they sort of jokingly nitpick movies, plot holes, continuity, all sorts of stuff. And because they're a fan, they sent this interview that once they finished with their initial script, they went back through, jokingly, but actually doing it, to make it Cinema Sins bulletproof. Like, let's tie up anything that could be nitpicked, someone's going to. So let's try and loop that round. But like years later, they said, actually, we feel like, it was fun to do, but we think we took out some of the fun of the film as a result. I guess if you're a big fan of, what's his name, Jordan Peele?
Yes.
He is someone who is like the opposite of that. He's like, let's hammer in a metaphor that makes the film better, even though if you start to scratch the surface, it's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
But like this, like, I guess, what do they say? Like his themes overcome his plot and character.
Right.
And just in this instance, it works. Anyway, I was going to say, this kind of felt like King did that here. It felt like a very clinical book. It didn't, there wasn't much fun to be had. I guess because it's on the tails of The Outsider and not Mr. Mercedes, for all my, whether I liked or not Mr. Mercedes trilogy, they're a bit more fun.
Yeah.
And then The Outsider was like very, very serious, not much. And when I say fun, obviously I'm not saying jokes and shits and giggles. I just mean like, for example, The Dark Half is a serious book, but there's a lot of fun to it because of its, it sort of like bites into its ludicrousness and doesn't dive too hard. I guess that's an example of something where he's not going to go too far in explaining what's what and try tie up everything and make it so real worldy. And so this one sort of had that, but because it was so short, I read it in like 2 or 3 sittings. It was just more evident how, like, I guess I use that word again, like quite clinical it was within its story, I suppose.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a bad thing, because I actually did enjoy The Outsider. It's the one I would like to, I definitely can't be asked, but want to read again. Now I understand Holly more. Maybe I'll audiobook it if it ends up cheap sometime.
Yeah, no, I do believe that. So I walked away from this mildly disappointed.
Oh.
But not to the extent that I regret reading it or would recommend reading it. It's definitely part of the canon of Holly.
I guess you could argue it
doesn't fire as well. Yeah, that's it.
Like if you go from Outsider to, I can't imagine the Holly Gibney story being full of laced lines about this novel. Maybe one about, I took out The Outsider and that other little guy in that little story. Like this, there's so many references to the outside. Obviously The Outsider, but even Mr. Mercedes and Bill, like she's not going to get over him. Not in a mean way, but just like that's a large part of his life.
Yeah. The way he's detriment to how she's grown up as a person, and
As I say, I guess if there's a moral, I guess it's that I keep reading about Holly on her own. Holly Gibney, Holly's on her own, she's got to deal with this, but Holly's on her own and there's another outsider. It's like she's never on her own. She's literally not on her own to the point of her plans come undone because her she's so not on her own that the most attention came from Jerome and his sister trying to be involved. Because she's still on her own and they care about her. I guess it's that irony thing of like, she didn't want them involved because she cares about them.
Yeah, she tries to be on her own, but they're those meddling kids.
Kinda, yeah. Which I guess backtracks to the outsider saying, "You're like me. You're an outsider." A bit. She's forced not to be one, I suppose.
How do you feel? Did you like the characters of Jerome and?
Yeah, I like him enough for sure. I guess I'm glad. It's a very happy ending again. I'm not saying he's pulling his punches, but the second.
Because he's the one that
how you feel.
Almost kick it, didn't they?
Yeah, I guess that thing where like Jerome should have had some brain damage. He got whacked with a bar, but that's the way it goes.
I did worry about Jerome for that in that moment. The way it felt like a final blow at one point.
Yeah, I thought he could have got mean. I didn't think he was going to die, but it felt like Jerome was never the same again. And within 6 months, he dropped out of university and actually sort of like fumbled in life for the next few years. Like as a result, like it's very common, I think, for people who are like attacked, like just the shell shock and the aftermath of the mentality. Like they've sort of, I don't know, maybe he keeps bouncing back too much, these guys, considering everything they've been a part of. Yeah, but the potential bombing, and Jerome was there when the guy was brained. I guess Finders Keepers doesn't really observe them, but certainly End of Watch, they're actually very well-rounded kids to go through that and actually be really smart, conscientious, without carrying on with the education. Do you know what I mean? No one's slipped into alcoholism or drug addiction.
No, that's true.
Good on them. It's funny when you said like, oh, HBO must be like gleaming, but no, I think it's too small.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's just really hard to do a follow-up sequel that's smaller. Which is probably
I don't think it would work, is it? Maybe like a
Christmas special,
a double episode.
Yeah, it's just a
Holly series,
a 1 hour episode special. Really,
that's exactly it. Yeah. Where do you so politics? The food for thought. Do we address that? You know, should politics have a place in these sorts of novels, or should he be leaving his beliefs from the doorstep and just write?
I guess it comes down to, I feel like I'm going to answer now, having done this podcast for a while, how you would have in the past, in that, what's it you said in the past? I think we're talking about Finders Keepers, like, get what you're given, and if you don't like it, it's fine, but shut the hell up. Like absolutely, it's his prerogative if that's what he wants. I mean, you follow him on Twitter; he is quite outspoken.
Yes, there's hardly anything in there, if anything. They're
not political books. I mean, yes, he has a jab at one of the most famously controversial modern. I guess they all bloody are these days, but like there's just so much out there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's just say this isn't the show for you.
Yeah, move on. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
I find it hard. I guess I want to talk to someone who can explain it better. Like HBO just had a cartoon out, I guess aimed at adults, but called Velma. And there's a lot of and I haven't watched it, so I'll just say that off the bat. You can say you haven't watched it, then you've got no opinion. But I have read up not read of the reviews, but the zeitgeist means I know people's strong opinion. What I want to say is, okay, so you're a big Scooby-Doo fan? What's the era of Scooby-Doo I should watch that is great? Or is it all a kid's cartoon and it's like bordering on absolute nonsense? You literally go, no, I'm going to watch the Scooby-Doo I liked back from, like, I grew up Scooby-Doo and it was fine, but there's nothing that's going to get me watching Scooby-Doo now. Because it's like a bar on having a kid, you know what I mean? I can't, Ernest, watch a Hanna-Barbera cartoon for the plot and the action. Maybe like one out of nostalgia. But I'm not watching it like I would have programmed. So it's very odd that people are up in arms about something. Okay, it's a bit different because this is an adult show, I suppose. And but I just think, okay, so you've got about 30 years of Scooby-Doo and one season of something you didn't like. Let it go. People, I really hate that. You ruined my childhood. Just, I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, I'm probably ranting on.
No,
different matter.
No, I'm just trying to, because you were saying I wouldn't watch a Scooby-Doo for
Is this where you tell me that you're going to bring up the Scooby-Doo love?
I think I'm just checking whether it is.
You're going to make me eat my words.
Well, basically, there is a series of the animated series, obviously, of Scooby-Doo. I'm pretty sure it's the New Adventures of Scooby-Doo or something along that. And it's amazing. It ran for 2 seasons, and the storyline is just great. It's so good.
Stand corrected.
And it's very sort of meta. Yeah, so it's called the New Scooby-Doo Mysteries. Maybe that's it. Is that it? That looks like it might be it. And but it's really clever. It brings in, like, it's got appearances by Freddy Krueger and all this sort of meta stuff going on. Genius. So I highly recommend watching that.
Stand corrected.
Yeah.
Got part of my face.
It's really good. I remember watching it, I'll give this a go. And then I was like 4 episodes in, I was like, this is brilliant. This is. So yeah, don't knock Scooby-Doo. Sorry, I tangented.
No. Trust me, your tangent's just secondary to mine. Well, I mean, I guess, how do you feel about Stephen King dropping in politics?
So here's where I come with it. I come from a different perspective in that the guy, one of the reviews says, I see it enough in the media. I don't need to see it in my escapism. And I agree with that sentiment. I don't want to be taken out of my escapism to be reminded that there is a shitstorm brewing on the horizon because some guy in power is an absolute dickhead and is using the world as his own sort of plaything. I guess when I'm reading entertainment, I'm that ostrich with his head buried in the sand, and that's where I'd like to stay.
Fair enough.
If I want to be more aware of what's going on in the world, then I will look at the media outlets that provide that and that form of knowledge. I don't really need to know that Trump number plates cause anguish in a world of Stephen King's mind. But also, you say, it's his prerogative. They're his words. They're his book, and he can write what the fuck he wants, and I can get on and stay on, or I can get off and find something completely different.
I feel like it's going to date it.
Yes.
Like, I'm reading it now, and it's like,
More so than The Shining will be dated, definitely.
But saying that out loud, isn't this maybe just a reflection of reading this in the present whilst it's live? I can't think of any examples, but I'm pretty sure his old books use a bit of a political backdrop to set the scene, like a reference to Tricky Dicky and his war on drugs or whatever. And if you think about reading this book for the first time in like 10 years, will it not kind of make more sense, maybe?
Yes.
But yeah, so it goes. Let me see any notes I might have. I think that was all of them. I didn't have loads. Oh, I guess, do you feel like this ties into the collection of novellas? Not that it has to, but it's always nice when it does.
Within this book? Not really. I mean,
like, so far, for me, this is the one that stands out. Like, I have had very little notes for this.
Yeah.
And I don't think that many people do, because I had so little. Yesterday, on Friday, towards the end of work, I was just sort of scouring YouTube for other reviewers. I was like, okay,
there's not many, is there?
I don't really have an angle, so I will see what other people have, and I can talk about their angle, whether I agree or not. It frustratingly, that shitty, annoying thing of like, I'm not going to spoil it, so I'm just going to say I liked it. And it's like, what? You just read the back of the book, told me I like it, no spoilers, and that's a lot of that.
Yeah, no, that's the problem I found with trying to make my notes and my beforehand reviews and all that sort of thing. It's just like everything you type in, if it bleeds, you get the novella overall, or you get the others, and then the Holly one, they're like, yeah, it's really good. I'm not going to say too much about it.
And it's because there's not much to read.
Much to it.
We're talking about Mr. Harrigan's Phone, whether you like it or not, there's some fun discussion to be had about what it all means. Was it good? And Life of Chuck, twice or so. People seem to have hated it and loved it. this just seems like a sort of most people just sort of nodding. Yep. That's a book. There's a beginning, middle, and end. There was some tension there. There's some characters, and the words are in order. Not. I know you read the sort of people who love it and hate it, but it just feels like a very. I imagine the people who loved it are the ones who, it's just like the clearest story. It's the most you can sort of turn your brain off on this one.
I'd agree with that completely. I do find, here's a thought for you. I find it a shame that the title of the book is based around a news approach to the news. Is if it bleeds, it leads, which is the original saying. And news is predominantly made up of negative tales, and people don't want to hear the good stuff. They just want to hear the negative stuff. There's very little positivity in the world, and I find it a shame that is a representation of the human race, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, that's more of the corporate side now.
If you look at Facebook and the way that, if you could take TikTok, Instagram Reels, and Facebook's Shorts, there is a distinct style and approach to each one of them. TikTok is a very sort of, it's quite jovial. There's a lot of positivity and sexualization in there. Then you've got Instagram Reels, which kind of is a bit of both, but a lot more lighter, and there isn't as much sexualization.
I'm not sure what that is. Is that what their version of TikTok is?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Video. Okay.
Yeah. And then you've got Facebook's versions of it, which is you come away feeling dirty. It's a lot of just really grim, people fighting, people arguing.
But because I'm on the YouTube one a bit, and if I finish watching a couple of the same, the algorithm is changing like by the minute.
Yes.
I'll watch like one calligraphy one to the end.
Yeah.
And then there'll be more. And if I watch them, it's like I'm just getting like calligraphy ones all day, every day. So is there a chance that when you're on Facebook, you're drawn towards the darker ones and the algorithms are feeding you?
I literally don't have a choice, I don't think, with the Facebook ones. It is, here's a dark one, here's a dark one, here's a less dark one, here's another dark. I'm like, oh God, I literally spend, I don't know, 10 minutes at most on Facebook a week. And it's a cesspit of horrid. So I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just, I find it a shame that if it bleeds, it leads. Is even a saying in this world, I guess.
Yeah, no news like bad news. Do you think this is the commentary of this book?
Yeah, possibly.
Sort of, I guess. Well, you know what? It's like a sort of play double entendre.
Consumption of media and...
Yeah, because I guess there is the comment of her watching, like, is it Judge Judy or like it starts and ends of her watching some sort of fictionalized reality TV show, Judge Judy. And those things are never happy. Those things are always contrived and happy. I guess for me, the thing that would tie it in, if I had to argue it, was she has a story with her uncle slipping into like hard Alzheimer's that she's sort of dealing with in her personal side. And I guess like the other two, it's evident King is just contemplating like his death.
Endgame. Yeah, definitely.
Let's hope he's healthy and got a good innings even from now. Will he make the big 100 with book count? Still,
that would be amazing.
But at about 3 a year, 2 a year, it's not.
Yeah. Is this the only year he's got one on the horizon? Can't think of any others. He didn't open the year with a release, and Holly isn't out until September. So,
I bet he's going to be trunk novels that could be posthumously released.
Yeah,
if someone can find them.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so, where do you stand on your not apprehension or excitement for the new Holly book? Because I'm still very excited.
It's just going to be more of the same,
right?
Because having read Outsider and the Three, I've got nothing wrong with Holly, but this for me was like, here's why she should be a lead character. I think maybe Stephen King's too precious of her. I don't know. I had no real fear for her.
No.
It was just, I don't know. It wasn't jolly, but I think, like I said at the end of Watch, was like I kind of feel like the big bulk of her heartbreaking story was done in the first novel, and ever since then, she made like a big leap, and now it's slow crawling, and that whole, now she's doing it on her own. Like I said, it's like, kind of had that with The Outsider was like she's not even on her own; she's leading the charge.
Yeah,
when she's like, this Sinister wasn't bigger than anything she's dealt with before.
Nope.
So why is this her big test?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what I'm hoping for, that this book will be her big test. I feel like The Outsider was not really her big test. It was more of a test for everybody involved, and she was brought in halfway through and became a larger part of it.
It was like the magical woman who has to get everyone else to believe. She was like
But I'm hoping that this Holly, which comes out on September 5th, will be not her last hurrah necessarily, but a really good, meaty novel in which her character arc is pushed even further and taken to new realms. I don't know how he's going to do that, or which trajectory that's going to take, but that's what I'm hoping for the novel. The setup, just that she's up against what seems like two professors, so very intellectual and intelligent people that have been getting away with some form of crime or something. What that is, whether it has supernatural elements, I have no idea. The cover, from what I've seen, gives it kind of a psycho feel.
Yeah, I saw that. I guess do I want a big, expanding, like open world James Bond style? Like she's in different locations, she's traveling, she's like the police have turned on her and she's on the run and she has to solve it on herself. Or do I want an intimate, like it's almost like this one, like it's set between like her house and she's taken an afternoon class and it's just a very small, intimate setting that's more personal to her somehow. Or big themes and big locations and big budget.
Yeah, I'd like a Holly Gibney goes to a house that's been taken over by these two professors, and it's some years down the line, and it turns out that in the back garden there's a shed, and at the bottom of the shed is a flight of stairs that takes you to tie in. For the fairy tale crossover. Yeah, that'd be amazing. I'm all here for that. Let's go take Holly Gibney to the fairy tale land.
There's a kid who has a magical phone that he can text the dead. To be seen. But we also have Rat to go, I believe.
Yes, Rat is the last one.
Unfortunately, I know a little bit more about it than I'd like to, but I don't know any giveaways. Just because I said I was listening to those, I was trying to find reviews on If It Bleeds, but obviously being the title of the whole collection, it was people doing a whole overview. But I'm excited by it. It sounds cool. It sounds like my alley. It sounds, very old school King, I guess. I don't know if there is a particular setting. I guess I know it's about another writer. But,
Secret Window, Secret.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, and every other one he's ever written.
Yeah. Let's just, I won't say anything.
Yeah, I think it's a short one.
Yeah, it is very short. Okay.
Well, listeners, Toby, do you still check our email? Have you our email?
I haven't, no. I haven't looked for a while.
Cool. Well, if you have emailed us,
we will get back to you.
Let us know what you think of If It Bleeds, within This It Bleeds, and any of the rest of them.
Please do. Thank you for listening.
Are you looking forward to Holly Gibney, the story? The scoop.
Let us know your thoughts. And do you think Holly should go to the fairy tale land?
Should she meet her demise? Is Stephen King getting too obsessed with her? Like, if he doesn't kill her, he's just going to just marple her, and it's like every other book is going to be hers, whether the story lives it or not.
Is Holly Gibney the Newcastle Rock?
We're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, support your local bookstores, and have a great day.